You are listening to the Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast. We are continuing Anna Gale Lyne's fourth novel in the Jaguar and Peacock series, Smoke and Mirrors. A deadly sniper stalks the stars. Aboard the Freedom Alliance's frontline StarVessels, crew members are being picked off one by one, the killer striking with chilling precision. When a member of Colonel Jessa Master's team is critically wounded, the threat becomes personal and impossible to ignore. Jessa is no stranger to danger, but this case rattles her. The sniper's methods seem hauntingly familiar, echoing a nearly forgotten nightmare from 9 years ago at the Freedom Alliance admission office, a tragedy she has tried to bury. Is it the same killer, back to settle unfinished business? Or is she chasing shadows conjured by her own haunted memory? This is episode 6, The Notes. If you have not subscribed, do so now, and hit the bell to be notified of new episodes.
My head felt as if it were too big for my body and the room spun. I held my abdomen. Its ache felt more like the calm waters after the storm had passed. Something was wrong. Then again, I thought, glancing at my watch, I hadn't eaten since the marshmallows with the hot cocoa before bed and hadn't slept all night. When I wasn't eating or sleeping well while I was pregnant with Reggie, I became dizzy and fainted. I hoped that was the case this time. But the dizziness and stomachache had me concerned, very concerned. I glanced at Nate. Yes, I know I am on his target list. I looked down at my hands. If it were just me or just me and you, that wouldn't concern me, we can handle ourselves, but with the family, I think that it's time we teach Reggie and Remy how to defend themselves. Are you suggesting that we put guns into the hands of our 9 and 11-year-olds? Demanded Nate, running his fingers through his dark hair. No. I shook my head. I am, however, suggesting that we teach them some self-defense moves. If they run into trouble, they will be able to fend off an attacker. I stood and marched into the kitchen. Inside the kitchen, I opened the refrigerator and grabbed the bottle of fruit juice. I just needed to get something into my stomach, I assured myself. I slammed the bottle down on the counter. I retrieved a glass from the cabinet and poured some fruit juice into it. I lifted up the glass and drained it. I slipped down to the ground, leaning against the cabinets. What am I going to do? I muttered under my breath. Do about what? Queried Nate, leaning in the doorway, arms folded. I met his gaze. About my stomach. It hasn't been feeling well, I explained, giving him the abbreviated version. I put my hand over my abdomen. It's been upset for most of the night. Have you seen Dr. Manning yet? Nate requested, kneeling down beside me. By the looks of it, I'd say no, he remarked, giving me a sidelong glance. You are hiding the rest of it from me. What other symptoms have you been experiencing? I got a little dizzy before I sat down. My hands were shaky as I poured the fruit juice, I said, rubbing my palm vigorously with my thumb. Maybe I am just catching a bug. Either way, we need to get you to Dr. Manning, Nate instructed, jumped to his feet as he offered me his hand. I lifted myself off the floor and to my feet. I felt woozy, so I grabbed Nate's wrist as my knees buckled under me. Then the room went black while I fell into Nate's arms. I don't understand, I heard Nate rant outside the door as I came to. I looked around the room, only able to sit up a little. The green walls, the smell of disinfectant, the nightstand, the Diane monitor. I was lying in a room in the hospital. How did I get here? Oh yeah, the kitchen, feeling woozy, knees buckled, the blackness. What is wrong with my wife? Screamed Nate. What kind of doctor doesn't know what is wrong with his patient? I looked down at my hands. Someone locked my arms into restraints. I am doing the best that I can, considering the situation, Lieutenant Colonel Masters, Dr. Manning answered. Her electrolytes were depleted so low that her body stopped sending signals to her brain. My job is to find out why. You have exactly 1 hour to figure it out, circuit head, or I will tear you apart circuit by circuit. Jag, stop it, I called out to him. Threatening Dr. Manning and calling him names isn't going to make me better. Nate ran into my room, followed by Dr. Manning. Peek, you are awake. He hurried to my side and put his arm around me. I craned my neck to see him. I am feeling better. Thank you. I smiled. I glanced down at the restraints, lifting them up. Except for these. I met Dr. Manning's gaze. Have you run a toxicology report, Doctor? Dr. Manning raised his eyebrows in a questioning slant. You think that is necessary? I shrugged. I am not sure, but it wouldn't be the first time someone has tried to poison me. Why would anyone do that? The doctor countered, digging his hands into his lab coat pockets. Just run the most thorough scan you can, Doctor, General Graham ordered. I looked past Dr. Manning to see Graham standing in the doorway. And take those restraints off her. She gives your nurse a bit of a fight when she was unconscious, and you act like she's public enemy number one. I can see she wasn't exaggerating about you. Dr. Manning brushed past the general, muttering, What are you doing? Sleeping with her too? Nate started after him. Graham raised his hand to stop him. No, Jag, let me have the pleasure of dealing with this. He gave me a sympathetic smile. He peered up at Nate, motioning to the restraints. Get those off of her. He slipped out the doors. Nate kissed my head before sitting on the bed and working to loose my arms from the restraints. You scared me. It was no picnic for me either, you know. He glanced up at me, unbuckling the first restraint and working on the second one. Do you really think someone could have poisoned you? I tilted my head to one side. I gave him a sidelong gaze. You don't think so? Like you said, it's always a possibility, he said flatly as he undid the second restraint. I couldn't figure out if the lack of emotion in his voice was because he didn't think that I was poisoned or because he was scared that I would not recover properly, that the babies would not be okay. Oh no, the babies. Were they all right? I touched my stomach. Sensing my anxiety, the twins kicked, letting me know they were fine. I smiled down at them. It's more than a possibility, Dr. Manning announced, waltzed into the room and waved his quan pad in the air. It is a certainty. Colonel Masters, you have high levels of DP-119 in your system, which is a toxic poison that could kill you if you take it in high amounts over a week's time. But how did it get into my system? Did I eat or drink something with it in it? I prodded, rubbing my stomach. What about the babies? Were they harmed by the what did you call it? DP-119? I did an ultrasound when you first arrived. The babies are in perfect health, considering the ordeals you keep putting them through. Colonel, Dr. Manning lectured, casting me a stern gaze, you need to stop making so many enemies and taking so many risks. You are putting your children in danger, and you have no one to blame but you. Someone cleared his throat from the doorway. We all turned our focus on General Graham, who reappeared near the entrance. Dr. Manning, you are a doctor the best, but you took an oath to do no harm. And speaking to Colonel Masters in that manner is putting more stress on her, and you are making Lieutenant Colonel Masters and myself very angry. Graham walked into the room and moved to the other side of my bed. Nate stood on one side and Graham on the other. The Colonel is not an enemy you want to have. Her enemies are Lieutenant Colonel Masters and my enemies as well. Because she is family. A concept you have no clue about. Graham grabbed my hand and glanced down at me. Not that she couldn't handle you herself, even in her present condition. He looked over at Nate. Remember what she did to the Belasco brothers? How long before my wife is released? Inquired Nate, turning around to see the doctor. It is important that she is released as soon as possible. It is important that she stay here for observation, the doctor returned, peering from Nate to General Graham. I suppose I could outfit her with a small device that fits around her waist. It will monitor her vital signs, perform periodic blood tests and toxicology reports, he suggested, pressing his quan pad against his chest. It will allow me to monitor the DP-119 levels in her bloodstream. He narrowed his eyes as he gazed at me. It is the only way out of that bed. I threw my hands up in the air. I have no choice because I have a meeting this morning. We can move the meeting in here, if you'd like, Graham proposed, squeezing my hand. How's that for a choice? I'd rather take my chances with Dr. Manning's machine, I answered, pushing myself up into an upright position. At least I will be mobile. You know I can't be cooped up in here. I'd go insane. A few minutes later, Dr. Manning fastened the device around my waist. His hands felt frigid, almost like putting my hands in an icebox. Once he connected the device, he walked around to the front and programmed it by dancing his fingers across its miniature keypad. You are to wear this until we figure out what is causing the DP-119 in your system, Dr. Manning ordered, holding his elbow in his palm as he rubbed his chin. I am inclined to think it is something you are eating or drinking rather than something you have been injected with or are breathing. He regarded me with a lofty expression before exiting the room. I removed my hands from Graham and Nate, hopping off the bed. I straightened my flight coveralls as I glanced at my watch. 0900 hours. Now if you two will join me in my office. We are late for our meeting. They stared at me as though I grew another nose and turned orange. You just found out that someone poisoned you, reprimanded Nate, grabbing my arm. You are going to our quarters to rest. I shook off his arm as if it were a serpent. If I was going to rest, I would have stayed here. I shuffled to the doors, past Nate and Graham, who still looked at me in stunned silence. I turned on my heel to face them. But if it makes you feel any better, I will lay down on the couch in my office during the meeting. And with that, I disappeared out the doors. Chip, can you recite the names of the jury members of the court case The Freedom Alliance versus Malcolm Danes in 2148? I required of the computer, sitting on the couch in my office. I laid down, turning on my side. I surveyed the people at the conference table, wishing I sat with them instead of having to lay down on the couch. The chair at the head of the table, my usual seat, remained empty. Graham sat at its right. Nate at its left. Colin across from it. Allison Blackman, Lauren Brandon, Todd Carter, Matt Colby, Gate Duncan, Troy Kohler, Marcy Natale, Alex Phillips, Christine Powers, Bo Salmon, Jack Scott and Patricia Zander, Chip answered as I mentally checked the victims off in my head. I was right. Dane's victims had been on the jury at his last trial. My heart raced. My breathing became shallow. My stomach knotted. We had to protect the other two jury members. Chip, Gates Duncan and Patricia Zander are serving aboard which StarVessels? Lieutenant Colonel Gate Duncan is serving aboard the USS Grant. First Lieutenant Patricia Zander is serving aboard the USS Cleveland. Colin, inform the Grant and Cleveland that Duncan and Zander are in immediate danger. Send them Dane's description, I instructed him. Colin made the calls. The Grant and Cleveland are assigning guards to watch Duncan and Zander. I slammed my fist against my other hand. I keep going over this in my head. I know he was dead. I saw him with my own eyes. The hospital even said he was dead. How is this man living today? When Graham glared at me, I instantly wished I hadn't said anything at all. What are you talking about? The man we are chasing is Malcolm Danes, I supplied, pointing my fingers as if they were a loaded gun. Malcolm Danes. At first, Graham shot me a bewildered look, his facial features hardened. Who's Malcolm Danes? Before the words fell out of his mouth, I could see the light of recognition dawning on his face. Oh, him. He pointed his finger like a gun, adding a grunt. He moved his chair closer to me. He took my hand in his. I remember that day like it was yesterday. You saved my life. I shot him. That puts me on his victim list. Oh, you think that he poisoned you, Graham surmised, tilting his head to study me, but that's inconsistent with the shooting spree he is on. Think about it, who else on this vessel wants me dead? Your brothers don't like you, Nate interjected, pursing his lips. He clenched and unclenched his fists. He seemed upset about something. But right now, they don't want you dead. You are the only one who can save them from the big bad Malcolm Danes. By the seething looks he kept shooting at Graham, I suspected that Graham touching my hand and being so close to me irritated him. I forgot to tell you they are coming to dinner tonight, I declared, rolling my eyes. So much for a quiet dinner alone. I looked at Graham and then at Colin. You two are coming too. I am going to need all the moral support I can get. After they agreed to be there, Graham returned his chair to the table. Any suggestions on what to do next? I broached, trying to move forward with the meeting. We have to get Malcolm Danes to come out of hiding, Colin noted, forcing a smile. If we knew what Malcolm Danes wanted, we could entice him with it, but what does he want? Put yourself in his shoes for a moment. If you were in his position, what would you want? I asked, giving Colin a sidelong glance. Colin peered around the table, wild-eyed. His face paled as he chewed on his bottom lip. I don't know. Freedom, maybe. All charges to be dropped. To see my family. Very good, I praised, casting him a triumphant smile. To find out what he wants for sure, I think the best thing would be to interview his friends and family. Maybe we can get some clues into the way Malcolm Danes thinks. We need to search Chip's database and see if we can find a picture of Malcolm Danes to circulate around to the security guards, suggested Nate, who rested his chin on his intertwined fingers. His elbows touched the table. I nodded. That's good. If we can't find one in the database, I am sure that one of his family members will provide us with one. His back is against the wall with the Liberty on lockdown, Graham piped in. His voice wooden and distant. He swallowed a lump in his throat. It won't be long until he attacks like a caged animal being set free. He raked the table with his eyes, sticking his chin out defiantly. And we had better be ready for it. Security is on high alert, Colin protested, studying Graham critically. Agents are surrounding the vessel. Security guards are at every travel tram. What more do you want us to do? I want every security guard and agent to be ready to shoot to kill, Graham announced. His mouth then tightened into a stubborn line for a few seconds. This man is dangerous. He looked back at me, fixing me with a level stare. I wish you had really killed him 9 years ago. This time we have to finish the job. In all my years as a federal agent, I never killed anyone. Critically injured some criminals, yes, but somehow they survived. Even though I faced danger every day and came eye to eye with maddened criminals, I didn't want to see them dead, only brought to justice, to pay for their crimes, but if it was the only way to save someone's life, I would do it. It was my job. Just then, a knock came at the entrance. Come, I shouted at the doors. My mind still rehearsing all the shootouts I had been involved in. My redhead company clerk with light green eyes and freckles stood in front of me a few seconds later, an envelope tucked under her arm, as she raised her hand to the edge of her eye in a salute. I returned it. What can I do for you, Lieutenant? She shifted the envelope from her left hand to her right, handing it to me. A gentleman just dropped this off for you. He wouldn't leave his name and was very curt. I seized the envelope, sitting up. I glanced up at Lieutenant Thornhart. Could you describe the man? 6 feet 4 inches, blonde hair, no facial hair, a tattoo of an eagle on his right cheek. Thank you, Lieutenant. If you see him again, inform me immediately. You are dismissed. She nodded before marching out the door. Colin, send that description to your guards. Have them check this area of the vessel for him. I unfastened the manila envelope. After lifting the flap, I pulled out the papers from their home. I scanned the first page. Ha. Ha. Colonel, we meet again. You thought you killed me 9 years ago. But I am alive, as you well know. I've killed your friends, your co-workers too. And next I will kill you. A slow, painful way to go. Like a frog in a slowly heating pan. That is my ingenious plan. Ha. Ha. The Eliminator. I shuffled the papers. The second one read simply, time is running out. I replaced the papers. They are nothing, I told the 3 men, who were staring at me. If that's all, we will conclude this meeting and reconvene at 0900 hours tomorrow.